we do web development, but we're leaning more toward blockchain development during this year, and we're doing a lot more events crypto related. So right now we're trying to grow the Monero community in New York City because it's a really interesting coin that I find. And aside from doing stuff like this, it's pretty much a lot of the things that we do. We do a lot of experimental stuff with the blockchain. So I mean, we're still trying to figure out how to make money with the blockchain. I'm sure a lot of people have issues with that. This demo, how it came about was that we were building a wallet. We were messing with wallets like maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago. We mainly play around with NXT back in the days, and now it's called Ardor. I don't know. Have anyone heard of NXT Ardor? I'm just curious. Yeah, it's not that many, right? Yeah, it's like a really underrated. They don't do any marketing, but the tech is really solid, and that's why I really like it. But obviously, there's a lot of other possibilities, other coins, blockchains that you can work with. So first things first, I'm going to go over what is a DEX. Okay. So the thing is, who here has played with a DEX? I'm just curious too. 1, 2. Okay, okay, not that many, right? So what is a DEX, right? It's an exchange of goods without a middleman taking a fee or restricting trade. Well, it really depends, right? Sometimes they might take a fee depending on how the DEX is built. So first thing is, we're all familiar with centralized exchanges, okay? So Coinbase, Gemini, Kraken, and Bittrex. So these guys are centralized. So the good thing about these is that they're easy on-ramps from the fiat world into the crypto world, where you just link your bank account and you get Bitcoins, right? And it's backed by a company, so as long as the company is trustable, you can actually see the founders. That's a good thing. Fast trading, obviously, it's really quick. You can do high-frequency trading with these types of exchanges. And also, if you have problems, there's customer support. Cons, you don't control your private keys, so that's a really bad thing, which is why the DEX industry, I believe, is going to boom eventually. So, I mean, the thing is that because you don't control your private keys, you have the potential of getting your account frozen for whatever reason. Maybe you sent in too much money, you try to withdraw too much money, or maybe you got tainted coins from somewhere, and then now your account is completely frozen. And also it's prone to hacks. So centralized exchanges are basically the digital world of bank heists back in like 100 years ago, right? This is the new way of robbing a bank, and it's worth billions. And you could be in a different country and be able to do it. So those are some of the issues with centralized exchanges. So next, we have decentralized exchanges. The most popular one nowadays is IDEX and Ether Delta, built on top of the Ethereum platform. Really good things about a DEX is, there's kind of no middleman to take a fee, but obviously the fees are not going to be as high as a centralized exchange, but obviously it comes with downsides, right? So you do control your own keys when you use IDEX or Ether Delta by using MetaMask. And there's obviously no intrusive KYC. You don't have to provide your ID, to provide this, that. Just because you're in New York, you can't trade, which is kind of crazy that a lot of exchanges are banning people just because you're from the US. And the cons of a DEX, as of this state and the past couple of years, it's just not easy to use. The UX is just horrible because using a DEX is really complicated, and Bitcoin and blockchain is complicated already. So now you're asking people to trade on these type of exchanges. Noobs are gonna start losing their money, right? So we see that happen all the time. So a DEX not gonna have as many functions as a centralized exchange. Not yet, right? Yeah.
I'm sorry. This actually, I feel like you're missing out leverage.
I know there's a bunch. I know there's a bunch.
Margins and derivatives.
What do you mean?
I'm saying that most of the DEXs don't have derivatives.
Yes, that is true.
Margin or leverage.
Exactly. So yeah, there's no margin trading or any of that stuff on the DEX. So that's why it's really basic, just buy and sell at this stage because it's still so early. In this phase, like, I believe nobody really knows what the hell they're doing. Everybody's just experimenting with stuff and trying to figure out what works, what doesn't. Eventually, the margin trading and the other derivatives, I'm sure they will come into a DEX platform, but once somebody figures out how to solve a really good working DEX, that's the big selling point, and then we'll add in all the bells and whistles later, right? So another problem with DEX is there's no customer support. You lose your keys, or your transaction gets stuck for whatever reason. You can't just email support because nobody controls the DEX, because you can't sue it. There's no company behind it. In a way, but it really depends, obviously, right? How the DEX is implemented. So next question is a DEX really necessary? I believe it's necessary because the thing is that, around the world, regulation is starting to increase on these exchanges because they see these exchanges, they're making billions and billions of dollars a year. And Binance, on less than 12 months, they're like $1 billion company. It's like that's unheard of, for an exchange to do that, to just make like worth like $200 million just within like 6 months. That's a really big deal, and regulations will increase because of that. Because the thing is that the exchanges are eating the pie of the big boys, right? So they're taking a big chunk of the money from the guys on Wall Street. So you're gonna need all these laws to try to stop this innovation from happening. And the only way to fight this is have a decentralized exchange. Now you have nobody to go after. You can't sue anybody. You can't send federal agents to office and just raid all their servers, right? It's just not possible. So another thing is, it removes the reliance on exchanges from holding the user's funds too. That's another big issue with hacks, where the exchanges hold most of your coins. So with the DEX, you don't have to deal with that anymore because everything's decentralized. You own your own stuff while you can still do trades on the exchange. Another thing is, blockchains are transparent, so you can easily audit a DEX. You can't easily audit Coinbase. Sure, you can see Coinbase's Bitcoin wallet, and they have like maybe 200,000 Bitcoins or something like that, or whatever. But the thing is that, how do you know, that they're not making up Bitcoins on the exchange? That they're issuing more than 200,000 Bitcoins. There's no way to prove that because it's centralized. So, but in the transparency blockchain, you'll be able to tell if a DEX is cheating the system, or if the gateway is cheating the system and issuing more coins than what it is. Okay. So another thing, no one's sued. Well, sort of. I keep saying sort of. It depends. The reason why is it depends how you make your DEX. And crypto exchanges become wallet custodians in the future, I believe. Like Binance right now, they're the biggest exchange. But what I believe in the future, what's going to happen is these exchange players, they're not going to hold exchanges anymore, and they're going to transition to just wallets, and they just hold your coins where you trade on the platform, but they will back the peg token. That's what I believe will happen in the future, because the thing is that there's just a lot of risk running exchange. Another good thing about DEX is there's no central point of attack. You can't just take out a website and just call it that, and then no traders will be able to get to the website. Perfect example is like IDEX or Ether Delta. You could kind of take out the website. A lot of people can't trade. I mean, that's basically right. So next thing I have is the types of decentralized exchanges. I broke it down to 3 categories. This obviously isn't like official naming conventions. This is just what I came up with, that what I believe that there are. So we have a full DEX in the core wallet. So what that is a full decentralized exchange built in the core wallet of a blockchain. So perfect examples are Ardor, Waves, Stellar, BitShares has one, Komodo is one. Komodo I find very interesting because they're a decentralized exchange with the ability to do atomic swaps. It's just that it's still so early in the stage that Komodo requires you to have the entire blockchain of all the other blockchains. So you have to have the entire 200 gigabyte Bitcoin blockchain, and you gotta have the Ethereum blockchain, which is 500 gigs. That's like almost a terabyte of blockchain data, right? And be able to make trades with other people on these networks. So that's obviously not very user friendly right now at this state. So it'll be very interesting space to watch to see how they're going to innovate and solve this problem for atomic swaps. So the next thing is that we have third-party decentralized exchanges, which I consider Ether Delta and IDEX and BISQ, BISQ or whatever. I consider these are third-party exchanges. Reason why is that they build on top of existing blockchain infrastructure, and you have to have, you got to be able to trust the guys building these things, right? Because you don't know who they are. Maybe they're anonymous. Maybe even if they're public, the thing is that it's another counterparty that you have to deal with, because they're not core wallet developers. They're not, the one that making the original protocol blockchain. So there's the third party, right? So like I said, with Ether Delta and IDEX, the way they operate is they're not fully decentralized. They do have an off-chain server, which is centralized server, where the trades actually happen. Because if you trade on any of these, you realize that it's really fast doing the trades. The reason why is that it actually has a central server that actually processes it, and then it hits the Ethereum blockchain to makes the confirmations. That's how it works. If you take a deep dive on how these things actually work. So when people say it's a full DEX, you have to really question, like, how are they really implementing something like this? And BIS, they're selling it as a P2P exchange, where the thing with BIS exchange is that you actually have to leave your computer on to do the exchange. So that's obviously not user-friendly already, right? But who knows, maybe they might figure out a better way in the future. And then third is that we have a semi-DEX. A semi-DEX, what I consider as that is Shapeshift and Changely. They're basically coin exchangers. You can think of it as, yes?
Why don't you have Morph token?
Oh yeah, yes, Morph token is another one. That's a new player in the block, right? Morph token, Shapeshift, and Changely. They're basically coin exchangers. So you can think of it as at the airport, you can exchange your currencies for other currencies. It's just a currency exchange booth. That's basically what it is. Okay? But even for that, that is backed by a company. But obviously, because they're a company, they're kind of regulated. They can't just take like anybody's funds and just reissue you like Monero. Like there's reports of like maybe a year ago where one of the exchanges got hacked, and then the hackers were funneling a whole bunch of coins through Shapeshift or Changely or something, and then out came Monero to hide their tracks. So Shapeshift actually froze those funds, right? So that's another thing that you have to worry about. So I mean, it depends, like who do they see as criminals or bad actors, right? So right now everything is okay for now. But you never know in the future. So the DEX is supposed to solve a lot of these issues. So next, we have factors in building a decentralized exchange. These are some of the things that I have to kind of brainstorm and figure out, like, what things to consider when building out a DEX. All right. So when building out a DEX, if the DEX just came up and a startup just started doing a DEX, it's going to have like crappy liquidity and volume because nobody has done any marketing for it. Nobody knows about it, and it's very clunky to use. Right? It's not going to be as seamless as a centralized exchange like Coinbase or Binance. So these are just some of the considerations that I have to think about. So next thing is front running. Front running, for those that might not know, front running is actually a legal thing that you cannot do on the stock market. Basically what that is let's say you have an E-Trade account and then you were about to buy millions and millions of dollars of Apple shares. And the broker at E-Trade, they saw that you were going to buy it. So right before he puts in your order, he's going to put in his own order because he knows that you're going to shoot up the price of the stock. So that's front running. Right? So because the blockchain technology is transparent. You can actually see all the trades happening. You can see it right before it confirms, fully confirms, and you try to get ahead of somebody else. So there's no real way of preventing this yet. There might be solutions for it, but I haven't run across anyone solving this yet, because this is just additional bells and whistles later on once they figure out how to get the DEX working properly. Next, with the transparency, because same thing with the blockchain, you're able to see everybody's funds. So I can see the biggest trader on the exchange. I can see what trades are happening or what's going to be popular, because that's just how the blockchain works. So this is one factor to consider when building out a DEX, that you're able to just see everything. So speed. So right now it's pretty goddamn slow doing a DEX trade sometimes, because then you have to wait for confirmations, and then but that's just how the space is currently right now. There's no way in hell a DEX is going to be faster than a centralized exchange. No way in hell. If you see a DEX that claims to be faster than a centralized exchange, I would avoid that. I don't think it's possible, because the thing is that all these nodes are distributed around the world, and they have to communicate with each other, and that's a delay in it already compared to a centralized exchange. Another thing is security. So the thing with a DEX is I believe it's as secure as a centralized exchange, but a centralized exchange could be as secure as well. But the thing is that as long as you control your own private keys and you know how to manage it, but some people, they might not. This is one factor that I had to consider when building out the DEX. Like, how do you get like a two-factor authentication application on the blockchain? Because most blockchains, they don't do push notifications. I mean, Bitcoin has multi-sig. Ethereum has multi-sig, where you can have like 2 or 3 keys. You can do that. But the thing is that when you're making a transaction on Ethereum, there's no push notification that goes to your phone like, oh, are you sure you want to make this transaction? There's nothing like that. But with the blockchain that I work with, that actually is doable. So I implemented this feature, which I'll show in a bit. So other factors to enhance a DEX. So a decentralized exchange is not just about buying and selling a lot of times. So the thing is that with the Binance competition, what they kind of wanted was KYC and be able to do crowdfunding type of campaigns, and also be able to mix your coins on the blockchain. So these are the things that I had to consider, that to build on top of an existing blockchain and not have a whole bunch of other different blockchains or third-party services to just do a lot of these things. Because sure, either Delta could do a lot of this stuff, but the thing is that they're going to have to write a whole bunch of smart contracts to do these specific things, or they're just going to have to go out and use other type of services. But it would be so much easier if a lot of these things was just on one single blockchain and just solve all the problems. So the Binance chain requirements to build a Binance blockchain, these are some of the requirements that I see that must have during this competition. Is obviously able to access external blockchains. So the Binance chain has to be able to communicate with the Bitcoin blockchain, Ethereum, and all the other blockchains. And obviously it has to have a trading engine built into the blockchain, and a 2FA on the blockchain, and a ICO platform on the blockchain, where like how Ethereum right now is, everyone just ICOs on Ethereum. And that's what Binance Chain needs as well, because they want to push the ICO market and be able to back companies, because they're a company also. And also crowdfunding of new blockchains. So being able to communicate with other blockchains, let's say BitConnect wanted to be on the Binance chain, but they have to pay the Binance fee, which is $100,000 right now, to be on the exchange. So moving that from the centralized exchange to a decentralized aspect of it, we have crowdfunding, and that's also built into one single blockchain feature. So Now, I'm going to go over the recipe of how we came up with our DEX recipe. Obviously, everybody solves it differently. This is just my way. It's obviously not the perfect way. Keep in mind, this is a proof of concept. It's not 100% fully there. It's like 70 to 80% there. But I polished it up just for tonight, so you can see some, some stuff. Okay. So there's 4 parts to our recipe. So we have a wallet dApp for deposits, a DEX pegging gateway, hardware DEX trading node, and a security 2FA dApp. So I'm going to go detail into each one. Okay, so the wallet dApp, this is something we've been working on for literally at least 2-3 years. Originally, it was not meant to be a DEX. We were just playing with wallet software, and they were like, oh, okay, you can do this with it, you can do that with it, and then just maybe a couple of months ago, we saw the Binance comment. Oh, let's try to do this thing, do an exchange with it, and then we gave it a shot. Okay, so what the wallet dApp is used for is deposits. So everyone's used to on Binance or other exchanges where you log in Binance, you click generate, you generate a Bitcoin address, and you deposit your Bitcoins on that address. You don't have the private keys, right? So you're sending your Bitcoins out of your wallet. So you have to do that manually. Okay. So what we did it reverse. So what we did is that you generate your own wallets. You generate your own deposit addresses. You have control of the private keys. And what you do is you actually provide the private keys to the pegging gateway. And the pegging gateway actually pulls the money out of your wallet. So you actually have a shared wallet with the exchange. So that's how we're solving the deposits issue. Okay? And the thing is that these, the addresses from what you generated, they're actually mapped to the DEX main account on the Binance chain via a encrypted message. So it sends a message to the pegging gateway and then links all the coins together, which I'll show in a bit. Okay. So the wallet is a dApp. Reason why, for those that might not know what a dApp is, it's a decentralized application. Basically, any application that interacts with a blockchain, I consider it as a dApp. So it is a single HTML file, and that's all it is. You could download it and run it locally, and you could be off the internet. You don't have to be connected to the internet at all, and it'll be able to generate your addresses. And then you log back on and do whatever you gotta do. Okay? Next, we have a hardware pegging gateway. What a hardware pegging gateway is basically you deposit your Bitcoins into the address that you generated in our wallet, right? So now you have Bitcoins sitting in this wallet. So now you click a button, it sends the private keys to the pegging gateway. The pegging gateway will do your buy and sell orders on these DEX trading nodes, and these will be distributed around the world, decentralized. And the really interesting part about this piece of the puzzle is that when you do your trades, you do not enter your passphrase or your private keys at all. You actually just do your trades, and then you get a QR code with the transaction details of what you want to do, what you want to trade. Let's say you want to trade a Bitcoin for Ethereum. So a QR code will come out, and then you will scan it with your two-factor authentication app, which is the next piece of the puzzle. The last component of a DEX is the 2FA application. This will reside only on your mobile phone. So after you do your trade on the trading node, you don't put in your password and you don't do any of that. You just get the transaction details. The analogy for this is like maybe you wrote writing a check. Let's say you wrote a check to T-Mobile to pay your cell phone bill, but you don't sign the check. So that is called an unsigned transaction. And you do that on the trading node. And then once you sign this check, now it's a valid check, right? Now you can cash it at the bank. So the way you sign this transaction or check, you use your mobile phone to sign it. And everything is now everything is done on the mobile phone, but nothing. The computer will have no idea what you're doing on the phone, obviously, because it's two separate devices. Okay, so obviously you verify what you're doing on the phone, you confirm, and then it broadcasts the transaction on the blockchain. So this is the 2FA. Okay. So next thing is other pieces of the puzzle, aside from the DEX, is optional components for DEX, is being able to do KYC on the DEX. A lot of times, you know, maybe a certain ICO wants to, maybe a German company wants to do an ICO in Germany, but they don't want to deal with any US citizens. So now they have to collect IDs and verify all the people buying the ICOs before they can buy it. So we have to be able to mark accounts and addresses, and to be able to do that, you have to have a centralized services for this, obviously, because someone has to verify the IDs. Like, is this real? Okay, check, it is. Now you can mark specific accounts that is verified. And other things are coin restrictions during an ICO distribution. So let's say a company does an ICO and issues the tokens, but they don't want their users to trade the tokens yet. All they could do is just hold the tokens or be able to send it back to the original ICO issuer. That's another interesting feature, which is how Ignis did their distribution late last year, where you're able to get into the ICO and you actually get the coins, but the thing is that you can't sell the coins, which is, you know, as a requirement for, it has very interesting use cases where you can't, because you can buy the ICO coins, but you can't send it anywhere. So you can do things with that, all right? And another thing is coin launches for crowdfunding. So like I said before, Binance requires, I think, oops, sorry. But okay, so Binance has a thing for where if you wanted to add a new coin to the exchange, you have to pay $100,000, right? So what if a community came together, let's say BitConnect community, right? Scam coin, guys, all right? Okay. But you know, it's a joke. But you know, let's say you know BitConnect, you know, community came together and raised 100K to launch their coin on the Binance chain or something, right? So, but let's say they can't raise 100K. Let's say they only raise 95K, right? So the smart contract has to be able to return everybody's funds. So that's one requirement when doing a crowdfunding smart contract thing on the Binance chain. Okay, and the last is solving the transparency issue, where anyone can just peek at everybody else's account, right? People want to be anonymous again. So we have to have coin shuffling or coin join built right into the blockchain, not some external third-party service that's going to collect a fee here and there. We can't have that. So all of this needs to be on the blockchain and be done. So where you can mix other people's coins with your coins and send it back out, and now you're anonymous again. All right? So these are the optional components. Okay, so I'm going to do the demo. So hopefully it goes well. Something burns up or something like crashes, got DDoS out of nowhere. All right, so there's 8 steps to this. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to generate a deposit address with our wallet, and then I'll fake send my private keys to the pegging gateway, because I have not figured out the pegging gateway fully yet, because it's that's the hardest part to figure out in the DEX, I believe, pegging gateway. And then the gateway node will sweep the funds, and then other gateway nodes, they will verify, right? And then the gateway sends peg tokens to the user, and then the user creates a sell order on the DEX, a unsigned transaction, and then I will use my 2-factor authentication app and sign the transaction. All right? So this is the wallet application that we built. I reskinned it to look like Binance. Looks pretty cool, I think. All right. So keep in mind, this is a DApp. This is totally like I don't have to be connected to the internet and it will still work. It's just one single file. It's like 1 megabyte. That's it. Because it has all these JavaScript libraries to be able to generate stuff. All right. So I have a preset user. So you don't need a password. So it generates. So what it does is that it will generate, currently I only support four coins: Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, and Monero. And what glues it all together is the Binance chain, or what it really is the art of blockchain. It actually glues everything together to get it to work. So next is, let's suppose, this is the Bitcoin address. So I would send my funds here. And then let's make believe, it receives it. And then now, so these are, you know what, let me zoom this in. It might be a little too small for you guys. Good, okay? So, all right. So this platform be able to generate all these private keys. So these are Bitcoin. I have SegWit addresses, Litecoin, Ethereum, and I remade the address to be a BNB address. So it's so a Binance chain, supposedly. A Binance chain address is only 17 characters long. It's super short. It's the shortest out of any cryptocurrency address. And this is based off of Reed-Solomon encryption, if you guys know. All right. So let's say I deposited my Bitcoins. So what I would do is I would just click this button and it would load and it would send my Bitcoins to the pegging gateway. There's nothing to really see with that anyway, right? So they take my Bitcoins and now they issue me pegged Bitcoins. And then next I would go and trade on the DEX. So the DEX trading node, which is you guys are passing around the Raspberry Pi, is basically this is exactly loading from that Raspberry Pi. This is what's here, okay? So passphrase is A, if you guys want to play around with it. If you want to try, you can go on your phone, it's just demo.xcubicle.com. I don't know if it'll work too well, but on the mobile. Okay, so this is the trading platform. So this is a reskin of the Arter platform. I repurposed it for Binance. So I changed a bunch of colors, added the Binance logo, but essentially it's just Arter, the Arter blockchain, running on testnet. So we're going to do a trade. So we have pegged Bitcoins. These are pegged Bitcoin and Ethereum. See? Okay. So let's close this. So let's say I wanted to buy 1 Bitcoin for 0.48 BNB coin, which you all wish that was true. All right. So now I confirm it, right? So the thing is that, let's say I don't trust this node. This is not my trading node, right? I don't want to put in my passphrase. You could put in passphrase, which is just A, but I don't want to. All right. So we're going to use the two-factor authentication app that we built. So we go to Advanced, and then we click Do not broadcast this transaction, and do not sign it. Same thing as you just have a written check, but it's not signed. All right. So confirm. Okay, so now we got the QR code, all right? So it has the transaction details. So we have the app. The app is called, on Android, it's called Arter Armory, which does the two-factor authentication signing. So let's scan it. So let's scan it. You know what? I'll just use my screen back. Okay. All right, scanned it, and then obviously you guys can't see this, but click sign and broadcast. Okay, broadcast success. All right, so that's confirmed. So now let's see, did it really go through? So go back to the dashboard. So there you go. All right, there. I just made a trade, and now it's confirming. There's no, so it's confirming right here. So it's unconfirmed. All done through my phone. I did not do anything on the desktop application on the Raspberry Pi node. All I did was just do what I need to do on the exchange, make a trade, just whatever you got to do, and you sign with your phone and you broadcast with your phone. So that's the security aspect of the DEX that we came up with. And then next thing that I like to show is the KYC aspect of this blockchain feature. So what the Binance chain will have is what we call account properties or properties of a account. So you can actually, like anyone can mark an account. Let's say the pegging gateway account could, okay. So anyway, yeah. So we'll look at this, right? So the pegging gateway or the centralized service, which would be Binance itself, the company, to do the KYCs, because you need a real person to do KYCs. And this person, what they do, they mark your account. They would give a property of KYC level 1, 2, 3, it's like verify your passport, bank statement, ICO, verify for ICO buying. Okay? So if you were to do it yourself, you just do this, and you just set the address, what type of property, value, and obviously, if you set it yourself, that doesn't mean anything. It has to be from a trusted party, which is Binance itself, to do the KYC. All right. So next thing.
Sorry, where did the account properties get persisted?
The what?
Where did the account properties get persisted? Are they on the blockchain?
Yeah, they're all on the Binance blockchain.
Okay.
Everything resides on the blockchain. There's no external third-party services needed to do all this stuff. Everything is just there.
As far as the 2FA, are you using a separate application or is it just text message, SMS?
It's not SMS or anything like that. What it is that this is the only blockchain that actually does push notifications to other accounts. What I mean by that is, let's say you set up 2 accounts. One account, in order to do anything with one account, let's say you make a transaction, but the transaction goes through on the blockchain, but the thing is that it will never execute unless the second account approves of it. Because the second account, what happens with the second account, they actually get an alert saying that, oh, account number 1 is trying to make a transaction. Do you approve of it? Yes or no? So everything is on the blockchain. The app that we made is decentralized, meaning that it does not connect to any central server and is able to receive push notifications from that blockchain, because it will just connect to any node around the world to be able to pull in that data. So that's that. All right.
Some rudimentary question. So how do you verify that Bitcoin that you're trading with is actually real?
So the thing is that yeah, right. So that's a good question. So how do you verify that as a real Bitcoin that is backed by real Bitcoin? So which is where Binance comes into play, because Binance is a trusted company. You would trust that these tokens are backed by real Bitcoins because Binance is backing them. It's not some third-party developer you don't know, or just some Joe that just developed this out of nowhere. Like me, if I was to say, oh, I'll back your Bitcoin token, you gonna trust me? No, I'm like nobody, right? I don't have a reputation, right, compared to Binance, the company. So they're using their reputation to be able to push. Like I believe a DEX needs a centralized party, especially a trusted one, a big trusted one, to be able to do the pegging gateway properly. I don't know, that answer your question, right? Yeah, so it has to have a trusted party.
Will these nodes be run by Binance itself or independent people around the world?
So the idea is that these hardware nodes, there might be maybe at most 100, maybe 1,000 created, and they'll be distributed, maybe 1 in each country or something. And each person that hosts a node will actually be able to do proof of stake with the BNB coin and be able to actually get fees from people going in and out of the system. So you are incentivized to keep the trading nodes up because you'll get rewarded in BNB. Because instead of, why do people mine Bitcoin, right? Because they get Bitcoins, because it has value, right? So the thing is that now, why do you want to keep a Binance trading node up? Because you'll collect the trading fees, because the purpose of this blockchain is a DEX, is a platform, all right? But let me go through some of these other functions here real quick. So there is crowdfunding built into this. So like I said, you're able to do crowdfunding campaigns. It doesn't have to be ICO specifically. It could be other things. It could be like blockchain projects. Maybe somebody has a really cool idea and they went to Binance and be like, oh, I got this cool idea. I want to raise funds. And like, okay, launch on the Binance chain. And if the community likes it, they'll back your project with Binance coin. And if you don't raise it, you'll just get your money back. All right. So this is a very good, useful feature for this. And then next, there is a built-in shuffling protocol in this blockchain. I have not seen any other blockchain that have a shuffling feature. It basically uses coin shuffle. It is one of the, I think it's written by Tim Ruffle or something like that. That invented it, and Arthur is the only one that implemented it in this manner, where you could basically anonymize yourself again. All right, so which is very useful, during in the DEX, because everybody can see everything. And the next thing is be able to do messages. So now you'll be able to send messages on the Binance chain, blockchain, and like maybe get customer support. So now you don't have to deal with emails, right? So now you can still stay anonymous, but also still get messages into your account. So this is a useful feature in a DEX. Like IDEX and Ether Delta, you wouldn't have all this stuff, because then the Ethereum, the blockchain will blow up with all this stuff in it. It's just too much stuff. Okay, so that is the demo. And I have one more slide, I think.
So is this Binance chain really a true blockchain? You imply it's a better than Ethereum?
I believe it is, but the thing is that Ethereum maximalists will not, because everyone is a bag holder of something, and they want to, their technology to be much better. But I'm just coming from a blockchain developer. I'm really into the tech. I don't really care about all these fanboys here and there. As long as it can solve a problem very well. I don't want to learn Solidity, do all these you gotta make all these smart contracts, and you gotta audit your code, make sure you don't have bugs in it. It's just like, I don't want to do that. I just want it super simple, just do this, that, and just connect it and be able to come up with something like this. So Arthur, it's more like Lego blocks, where Ethereum is like putty, where you could mold it into anything you want. So that's why I really like the Arthur aspect. So there's predefined blocks, and you could mix and match the blocks. But obviously, you can't do like a lot of crazy stuff with like what Ethereum does. So, but I mean, Ethereum is here to stay, no doubt about it. But I like playing with the bleeding edge stuff. I mean, who knows? Maybe this thing will die, right? But you never know. But I just find it interesting that I could build something like this, like relatively quickly. So the next thing is monetizing a DEX, right? If you can't make money off of the DEX, it's kind of no point in keeping it up in a way. I mean, even though a DEX is supposed to be decentralized, nobody controls it supposedly. But the thing is that if a DEX was backed by a real company like Binance or Coinbase did a DEX, and they were able to put marketing dollars into these things, it would really blossom. Versus like IDEX or Ether Delta, they're just expecting the community to pick it up. I mean, sure, they'll eventually pick it up, but it would just take a long time. But imagine if Binance did the same exact thing as Ether Delta and IDEX, they would wipe them out in like months, right? Because they have so much marketing dollar to be able to just flood their DEX with so many users. And because they're already established as an exchange, it's very hard to penetrate this ecosystem if you don't already have an exchange already. If you're trying to just start up a DEX, you're gonna have a hard time competing with these big boys once they come in, and they're going to come in because they see where the industry is going, right? So making money on the DEX, right? So what I see of ways of making money on the DEX is through the pegging gateway. So maybe when you peg your Bitcoins, they charge a fee, like how they do it now on Binance. You know, when you take out your Bitcoins, there's this gigantic fee. Like, why am I charged $20 to take out my Bitcoins, right? So that's how they make money, right? So that's one way of making money on the DEX, right? So not that much of like trading. You don't really make money on the trading because everything is decentralized and it just trades, right? So you don't have to worry about the fees they're in trading now, right? But obviously it's not going to be as fast, right? So you got your pros and cons. So another thing is charging a fee for gateway coin pegging, like launching new blockchains. Like a new coin comes out, like the new Mimblewimble that might come out in like in a year or next year. Like let's say they want to get onto the Binance exchange, DEX exchange, they have to pay a fee, and you know developers not gonna pay it, the community pays it. So you crowdfund it. So that's how another way of making money on the DEX. And then another thing is POS hardware masternodes. Reason why I call it masternodes, I took that idea from Dash and some other coins that have masternodes, where you actually lock up funds in a node. As long as you have it on and it detects that you have your coins locked, you get rewarded for it, which is basically proof of stake kind of, right? So like the Raspberry Pi, you know, as long as it detects that you have locked, let's say, 10,000 Binance coins, you would get like 2% of the trading pegging fees or whatever at the end of the month or something. That's your incentive to keep these winning things up. And because there's a whole bunch of people locking up their Binance coin, you can imagine what that does to your BNB value, right? So now it's a lot less. So that's another way of making money. Obviously, there's a lot more different ways of doing it, of making money. So this is just some of the really basic things that I've covered. So I'm sure you guys have a crap load of questions for something like this. I mean, I would too. I still have a lot of questions on how to solve a lot of this stuff. But this demo it works, but obviously you're not gonna get real Bitcoins out of it. But it's a fun project to see where could this go. All right. Yeah.
So what about a feeless exchange where you just pin it to the cost of energy?
What's it?
What about a feeless exchange where you pin it to the cost of
A
energy?
feeless DEX exchange?
Yeah, why not? I mean, just pin it to the cost of energy, right?
Yeah, you could, but I mean, what stops someone from spamming the network if there's no fees?
The energy, cost of energy to spend on the network.
Oh, then it wouldn't work with Raspberry Pi, would it? Then you need a much higher processing power. See?
Possible.
Yeah. So yeah, that's why there's a lot of different ways.
So I see each trading node is at some point communicating with each other, and they're centralizing the price of all these different coins.
Yep.
Is it possible, or have you ever considered doing an exchange where each, maybe the user has an option to do like an immediate trade at that node, and so you may tolerate like negative spreads and stuff like that existing. Like there could be some discrepancy in prices between different trading nodes.
I mean, that's possible. I mean, obviously, a lot of this stuff is very primitive. Like to do a lot more like the advanced stuff that you're talking about. I mean, obviously, it has to be. They have to get this working in a decent way before they bring all the bells and whistles. That's the way I see it. So obviously, it's you just have to wait and see what other people come up with. I'm sure people are gonna watch this and be like, they're gonna come up with all these other ideas, and then just sharing a whole bunch of information, and we see what we come up with. Yeah, right.
Why did you choose a proof of stake blockchain platform versus, Byzantine fault tolerant platform like Stellar?
Reason why is because it has a whole bunch of these other functions that I needed, like the KYC stuff, especially be able to send messages. Because you can send messages on this blockchain, you're able to do a lot of things because messages is just clear text. You can interpret it different ways. Maybe it's maybe you're sending JSON data to do specific things. Maybe you're sending a message to alert the user to do something. Like other blockchains, they don't have the built-in messaging system, which is why I picked this. because I'm not too familiar with Stellar. I know Stellar has a DEX in it too, right? Yeah. So, but the thing is that we just needed a lot of these features, right? It's like being anonymous. You know, that's a really big concern sometimes when you do a lot of trades and you don't want people to know that you did a bunch of trades. So, yeah.
How did it compare to HyperDex?
HyperDex? I'm not too familiar with that one. Yeah, there's so many DEXs out there. I did not play with everything. All right. So you guys could definitely let me know if something is like much better than this, but I haven't seen it yet. So, yeah.
Is there an internal period in which all orders are executed, like you collect all orders for some, 1 second or something, and then you execute all the orders, or are they processed as they come in? And is there some reason that a DEX would have to be one or the other?
So the block times on the Ardor platform, they're 1 minute block times. So within that 1 minute, the bundler, what they call, it's called bundlers. They bundle all the transactions, and it really depends. I'm not sure exactly how the consensus works, where if one fires the other. There is like a fee structure, like maybe if you pay more fee, a higher fee, you could skip the line, you would confirm faster, like you said. But it is 1 minute block times. I feel like it might be a little too long compared to what Ethereum has, which is 15 seconds or something like that. But I'm sure that somebody's gonna, the dev's gonna like increase
The price you're seeing on the exchange only updates every 1 minute.
Yes, that is true. That is true. Yeah. Yep.
Does Binance Dex have bigger blocks?
Binance DEX?
The block size of the blocks?
What do you mean?
I mean, if let's say the restriction of block size.
Oh, okay. So right now, currently, this platform, the limit is 100 transactions per minute. It's hard coded currently for now, but that could easily be removed, and it could be scaled up to 1,000, 10,000 transactions per second. So right now, it's just hard coded, because the thing is that you have to account that this is relatively new tech. It only came out in January, but even though this technology was originally built in 2014, way before Ethereum was launched at that time. So it's still growing. It's still growing. Yeah. Yeah.
So if there's no governing body over DEX, then how do we list a currency or a token on the exchange?
Yeah, so what that would have to be, there will have to be somewhat of a governing body, which is Binance. So the central aspect of it will have to be the pegging nodes. The pegging gateways are the ones that has a Bitcoin blockchain daemon installed alongside with the Ardor blockchain, and they'll communicate with each other. And then let's say you have 100 of these. So they'll confirm with each other and make sure each other is not cheating one another. And then if you wanted to bring on a new blockchain, so the next thing is that you will have to create new nodes with these pre-built already. So there is a hardware element to this DEX. So it is kind of like a hardware DEX where someone has to assemble these hardware nodes. Like us, where let's say a new coin comes out, we have to release like maybe another 100 of these based off of like one of the other coins, like Dogecoin, right? Let's say Dogecoin, wanted to be on the pegging gateway, so now we would release 100 of these nodes, and it will only have Dogecoin and the Ardor platform, and they will be able to communicate with each other, and then it gets redistributed around the world again, and then because that has value in itself.
So a clarifying question would be, how about if it's just engaging in signing up in terms of partnerships to get our currencies listed onto the Decentralized exchange? So, yeah.
Well,
versus
yeah.
Decentralized. So, for example, do we still have to go to Binance, work with the partnerships, sign up, and then
Yeah, then you will have to work with a Binance company, right? So that's why it's not like a super fully decentralized. It's kind of like, that's why I said.
It's not like a Craigslist where I can just go up and just put out my own, like I'm selling my shoes.
Yeah, in a way. But the thing is that you still need to be able to issue these nodes. Like you can't just make it, right? Nobody would honor it. So you still need that central authority to do that, which is Binance. And that's why I'm saying like in the future, exchanges, I believe they're just going to be custodian wallets where they just hold coins. and be able to just earn money from it somehow, one way or another, right?
So with this like Binance stuff, there's no way for like someone to sign up as like an anonymous party and enter a transaction. At the end of the day, you're still getting their KYC.
Well, no, the KYC is only for specific use cases, like maybe just ICOs only. But it would not prevent someone from just hopping onto the platform and just buying and selling. But then the only problem comes is the pegging gateway. They can't choose to maybe stop a fund, maybe not. But the thing is that that's a tricky part. That's one of the trickiest part is decentralizing the payment gateways where nobody controls it. The only control comes on the creation of it when it's being created and distributed. That's the only central part of it. But once it's distributed around the world, it becomes decentralized, and there's no way of stopping that, I would imagine, right? So that's my take. But obviously, you know, the idea, I don't know if it's like super sound, but I think it could work as long as each pegging gateway node checks each other. And technically, theoretically, it should work. I mean, it has to be built first. Yeah. So
questions: how Binance make a profit from this?
So the pegging gateway, right? So that's the centralized part. So Binance would make money from people going in and out of the system. Let's say you wanted to withdraw real Bitcoins, they would charge you a fee to come out of the system. So think of it as Chuck E. Cheese's. You go into Chuck E. Cheese's, you give $100, you get Chuck E. Cheese's coins. Let's say you go around Chuck E. Cheese's, you play. It's like, oh, I don't want these Chuck E. Cheese coins. I want to exit. I'm going to charge you a fee when I come out of Chuck E. Cheese, right? So that's one way of making money, right? That's just one way. But there's obviously a lot of other clever ways, marketing techniques that Binance could do. Like maybe if different nodes hold a specific BNB coin, they get rewarded, or it could be randomized, it could be giveaway lotteries or whatever, depending of how clever they could use their BNB token to do the marketing, to increase adoption and usage in the DEX. Because eventually, once the DEX reaches a certain point of users, it should technically kickstart itself and just run itself by itself. And then you don't have to do anything, right?
I'm a little confused about how the pegging gateway isn't like, hackable.
The reason why it's not hackable is because the thing is that in order to do anything, the other nodes, they have to confirm it. So let's say there's 100 nodes, like maybe 75 of the nodes have to be true. If something like, let's say you wanted to withdraw Bitcoin, right? So what you would do is you would send your pegged Bitcoin to the pegging gateway. The pegging gateway would check, like, okay, did I receive it? One node says yes, true. It will check with the next one. If all 75.
That's the same way it always does, but it's like Binance is controlling it.
But they're not controlling it. The blockchain itself controls it.
Okay.
So it would just be a script that checks, that does the
The
checking.
software, you can see the software.
Yeah, you see the software. You see it. You can see what it's doing, right? But once it gets to the point where it's decentralized, it just runs itself. That's the goal of this DEX, is to decentralize. Where you put it out there, it's just unstoppable. And then you just have specific.
So just to be clear, so the number of nodes is controlled.
Yeah, it has to be controlled. So there can only be a certain amount made. It can't just be like anyone can fire up a Bitcoin node, right? It can't be that. So it has to
Kind
be.
of a shame, though.
Huh?
Kind of a shame.
Why?
Because the thing is that to do the pegging, you can't have too many. It just has to be a predefined amount, and it has to be made by Binance, the company, because they're trusted. You trust them. You can't just have somebody else like just fire it up.
Otherwise, I inject mine and I'll skew it my way.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. So this is the centralized.
If Binance gave you their code, you still wouldn't be allowed to run it.
Yeah, exactly. So it has to be like from the source. So that's the centralized aspect of it.
Yeah,
That's
I
why
was going to say, isn't that sort of centralized then?
Yes, exactly. I mean, people say, the how's
It's
that?
like a centralized decentralization.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why I say, you know, a full DEX is not really a full DEX. There are parts where it's still centralized. Like the trading would be fully.
I can't just buy a regular coin and
Yeah, you can't, right?
and create a node on your DEX, right?
Yeah, you can't.
I cannot.
Well, you could just run the software for the trading node, but the pegging gateways you
But
cannot.
Binance is not letting me be one of the officials.
Well, you could. Anyone could download a trading node right now, but the only centralized aspect is the pegging nodes, because that's where the magic happens, where it links the Bitcoin, the other.
It's just the pegging.
It's just the pegging.
Not the blockchain.
Not the blockchain itself. Anyone could download it. Anyone could download it. Like the trading node, like this, like anyone could just install on the computer and just do your trades, right? It's just that the pegging gateway is the hardest thing to solve. I believe.
So you have to trust the pegging governor.
Yes.
It
Because
has to be
you're,
a trustable source.
yeah, exactly. You have to be able to trust it because you're sending real bitcoins to them that you're not going to get hacked or get
Because
compromised.
they could, like Binance could certainly take advantage.
Yeah, of course, right? So that's why you need that trust element in it. So it's not fully decentralized. It's just the trading aspect, which is why I say these exchanges, I feel they're just going to be custodians in the future and just hold coins.
Have you handled like taxation?
Taxation?
Yeah.
So DEX, I don't know. How would you? I did not think about that, but you're welcome to figure that out. I'm sure you could report whatever you earn, but I don't know if a DEX, if anyone's going to write a tax report or something on DEX. Yeah.
I think the whole point is going to worry about.
Yeah. So the thing is that obviously they're trying to break the regulations, right?
Yeah.
Trying to break apart the governments, and I mean once you get decentralized software out like this, you can't stop people from doing things. It's just like how are you going to attack people?
If Binance controls the pegging nodes, then couldn't they just have something in software that, I don't know, when you pull out Bitcoin, it just sends a little report to the IRS.
Yeah.
Maybe this guy just withdrew his
It's possible. Maybe who knows? It's possible. It's possible. Yeah. All right. Let's see what time is it. Oh, 8:30. So thanks everybody. What? I got one more question for you. So which one? Yeah, so think of it as Bitmain selling ASIC miners. So Binance would be selling pegging, I mean not the pegging gateway nodes to distribute it around the world. So think of it as that. Right? Okay? All right. There's a fun demo. You guys want to play around with it? Just demo.xcubicle.com.
Feel free to